अब नहीं है हिचकिचाना, मन के स्वास्थ्य पर है ध्यान लगाना।
मन की सेहत भी है जरूरी, काउंसलर से फिर क्यों दूरी।
मन की सेहत भी है जरूरी, काउंसलर से फिर क्यों दूरी।
चलो अब अपना फोन उठाओ, मनोदर्पण पर कॉल लगाओ। चलो अब अपना फोन उठाओ, मनोदर्पण पर कॉल लगाओ। मनोदर्पण के काउंसलर से परामर्श पाने के लिए डायल करें टोल फ्री नंबर 844-844-0632। नंबर एक बार फिर सुने, 844-844-0632.
Hello, Namaskar and very good afternoon to all the viewers connected with us on NCERT's live and interactive program of MANODARPAN Paricharcha. Dear viewers, I am Anu Gupta, the host for this session. Viewers, as you are all aware, MANODARPAN Paricharcha sessions are conducted as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan under the initiative of Ministry of Education to provide psychosocial support to students, teachers and parents all across the country. जी हाँ दर्शकों, ये एक बेहतरीन माध्यम है अपने मानसिक स्वास्थ्य से संबंधित कोई भी सवाल हम तक पहुंचाने का, and we with our panel of experts we try our best to solve all your queries. I would like to tell you that you are connected with us through PM eVidya's channel number 6 and 11. Also, we are streaming live on our YouTube channel which goes by the name NCERT Official, which is flashing on the screen right now. Also viewers, अगर आप इस कार्यक्रम के बारे में और जानकारी लेना चाहते हैं या मनोदर्पण प्रोग्राम के बारे में जानना चाहते हैं तो आप हमारी डेडिकेटेड वेबसाइट पर भी विजिट कर सकते हैं जिसका नाम है manodarpan.education और edu.gov.in। इस वेबसाइट पर जाकर आपको वो सभी जानकारियां और फ़ोन नंबर्स मिल सकते हैं जो आपकी मदद कर सकते हैं मानसिक स्वास्थ्य से संबंधित किसी भी सवाल पर। सो दर्शकों, मैंने आपको माध्यम सभी बता दिए हैं। आइए जानें आज के टॉपिक के बारे में। और आज हर शुक्रवार की तरह हम आपके लिए एक टॉपिक लेकर आए हैं मानसिक स्वास्थ्य का। आइए जानें आज का टॉपिक। टुडेज टॉपिक इज डेवलपिंग साइंटिफिक टेम्पर फॉर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन, जिसका हिंदी में मतलब है संघर्ष समाधान के लिए वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण का विकास। दर्शकों, यदि इस टॉपिक से रिलेटेड आपके मन में कोई भी सवाल है, आप हमें टेलीफोनिकली भी रीच आउट कर सकते हैं। प्लीज नोट डाउन आवर टेलीफोन नंबर, इट इज 8800440559, which is also flashing on the screen. We also have a MANODARPAN tele-helpline number. Please note it down. It is 844-844-0632. So सभी जानकारियाँ आपको मिल गई हैं, आज का टॉपिक भी जान गए हैं। आइए मिलते हैं अपने पैनल ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स से। We are joined today by Professor Daya Pant. Ma'am is retired professor and head DEPFE NCERT New Delhi. Ma'am, namaskar and very welcome to the session. All right. We are joined by Dr. P.H. Brajayanti Devi. Ma'am is head DESM NERI. Namaskar ma'am and welcome to the session. We are also joined by Dr. Naman Dubey. Sir is assistant professor, Flame University, Pune. Sir, namaskar and welcome to the session.
Thank you so much for having me.
And lastly, but not the least, we are joined by Ms. Babita Sinha. Ma'am is counselor, Army Public School, Noida. And ma'am is also working as a CBSE resource person. Ma'am, welcome to the session.
Namaskar ma'am, thank you so much.
जी, तो दर्शकों, अब आप मिल गए हैं हमारे सभी एक्सपर्ट से और टॉपिक भी जान गए हैं। तो आइए चलते हैं हमारे एक्सपर्ट्स से। सबसे पहले मेरा सवाल रहेगा डॉक्टर प्रजयंती से और मैं जानना चाहूँगी आज के टॉपिक के बारे में, व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट रेजोल्यूशन। मैम,
Actually, conflict resolution is a technique and the process when conflict happens in between two parties, two individual or any group. So conflict is a disagreement between a person or a group because in two parties due to the differences in the agreement of the goals, values or interest. So the conflict resolution means this type of differences when it arises between the individual, between the groups, then we have to use some techniques in the processes by finding out the reason for conflict, because we have to see the reason for conflict, and after that we have to find out we have to make the hypothesis in the sense that this may be the means for solution of this difference in values interest. Whatever the conflict arises, we have to see the reason for the conflict, since conflict can be arises from many reasons. So this scientific method we can use for resolving conflicts, because the conflict may be because of communication issues. I mean, when we cannot communicate properly, then the differences may be arise, and there may be in the difference in the interest in the values, and there also difference about the resource related issues also maybe, and some of the social structural factors also may be the cause for the conflict, and the psychological and the personal factor, these factors may be the reason, cause for the conflict. And when these things happens, then one has to adopt the method of scientific process. What are the steps involved in scientific method means that we have to, when we observe something, or when we heard something and we come across some conflict, then we have to observe and then we have to ask a question: why it is happening? What is the cause? Then after finding out the cause, this to find out the cause, the question should be, we can observe something and we have to be curious, and which that curiosity which will lead to the question. And this scientific method is one of the characteristics of scientific temperament, the main focus about today's topic. So then conduct background research, because second step is the conduct background research, and when after asking the question, then some of to your question you may get some answers. That answer, whether how far it is relevant, and is there any other reason also, then the manifested reason, manifested cause of the conflict, we have to see into that. So conducting background research is second step of the scientific method. So by adopting scientific method, we can go to the root cause of the conflict, because the conflict has to be resolved, and for resolving any sort of conflict, we have to have the reasons, and then we have to have the probable solutions for the conflict. So for that we have to gather information, because when you are present in some place where the conflict is happening, then the people around there may also tell you some reasons, some causes they may provide you. But by having those already available information in terms of the causes for the conflict, then you also have to use your intelligence, you have to use logical thinking. What may be the other information related to the conflict which is not informed by the people to you? So you have to see into that. Then you have to formulate the hypothesis. This is the third step of scientific method. So based on your research, based on the background information you have collected, then you have to create a probable solution. Or this, if the causes are like this, then this may be the solution. This may be this with this method, or this with this the communication skill, or like this if I talk to the second party, if I told like this to the first party, so the conflict between them may be, reduced, or it may be resolved. So these some of the probable solutions, tentative solutions you have to create yourself, and depending on the possible solutions you feel about, then you have to try testing that the measure or methods you think that it may be the solution for the conflict. You have to use that. Then for that, whatever the designing required, what may be the what type of methods you can apply, and what type of communication you can make, or what type of list of solutions you can make, and that one has to be tested. Tested means you have to use it first to the two parties by saying like this, or what, asking like this, and what you wanted, or this, can it be the middle path for both of you, something like that you have to use. And then you have to think about that hypothesis as the fourth step. Then after that, by using the hypothesis, so this may be the solution for resolving the conflict. When you come to know about that, so for that also you have to examine the result. Okay, when you adopt that method, or when you try to communicate between the two things, or when you try to, I mean, console one party and the another one also the console like that, or say, if you don't, do you agree like this, or can it be the solution like this? You can talk to the both the party. Then after that, after, I mean, the communicating to the both the party, you will have some feedback what the parties tell to you, and the what is still there, what they like is still, and the which party is agreeing to that, or which party is not agreeing to that. So you have to analyze this information obtained from both the party. And after that, so you can, from that first trial of the resolving skill or resolving method, you can get some idea. You can understand now. So you can determine that whether the method is supporting both the party or not, or hypothesis, your hypothesis is working or not. You have to think on the, depending on the feedback provided by the both the party. Then after that, if you think that okay, the method or the this strategy which I thought it may solve the conflict between you, this may be agreeable to both the party, I thought. But when you see the, I mean, the degree of the conflict, and the when you said about can it be like that, or can you, I mean, the go 2 steps back, or can you like that, then when both the party reacted on your, I mean, the communication, then when they react, then you will know now you will know that, oh, this is not by this method, one party is getting more angry, one party is going too much opponent, and the one party is agreeing. So from there again, you have to find out another, because you have had a set of hypothesis means you have had a set of tentative solutions. These things may be the solution for the problem, or the conflict. So after that, you have to try another method. And then okay, when I say this one, and the second party is more angry, first party is willing. So I mean, from that, the second method, you can apply little bit on the on favor of the second party, not favor, but you have to moderate it again. So like that, you can check it, and after that, like this, you keep on, you can keep on trying the probable solutions. And after that, after that also, result, I mean, the when you analyze this, I mean, the information by yourself, then after that you can communicate, you can share, I mean, finding with other, which can lead to further research or testing. Or sometimes also you can do simulation, because this is the issue, this is the conflict. So before going to the conflict, what is, I mean, directly, so you can try yourself also this, and that you can use your peer groups, or you can make some two groups, and you can use this set of solutions. Then when you see the reaction from the simulated two party, then from there also you can find out, okay, this may be the best solution. This way you can, I mean, directly deal with the conflict parties, or you can use both. You can directly deal with the conflict parties, and you can do the trial method, and then later on you can come to the best solution also. Otherwise, you can study before applying the solutions to other people also, the who are not really having conflict, but you can simulate the part. This is the one, this party A and the B. Suppose this, if this is the condition, don't like that, you can create them, and then you can do. So this, I think, by this scientific method is nothing else, but it is a logical thinking, and you have to study what you observe while you're observing. So the observation you make may not be the real also. So you have to go deep, so that you can find out the root cause, and after finding out the root cause, then you can go like this. Okay, if this is the cause, and can it be the solution, and if I do like this method, that method, then what of the party will be beneficial, and impartially, how can we I mean, address the issues of the two parties, so it can be done. So scientific method we have to adopt, and the use of scientific method is one of the very good characteristics of the scientific temperament. And to develop this temperament among the children, or among any individual, so I mean, it should, we always believe that if we inculcate good things in the young younger stage or in childhood, then it becomes a character of the child. So I mean, this type of developing of scientific temper can be, I mean, done in the classroom of teaching any subject, not only science, any subject you can do. So you can give a ample scope for questioning, and how to observe any situation. You can give opportunity for the children to expose in such type of observation where they can find out some problem, I mean health problem or the open problem. And if and you can use the students also, I mean, if this is the problem you're finding, so what may be the probable solution. So like that you can, I mean, teach the subjects by applying this method, scientific method. So you can give opportunity for using their own solution, and you have to guide the first time, and after that, after giving guidance, after giving demonstration, then you should allow the students to take free decision, and you can, I mean, expose them to such type of situations in the classroom or in outside when you go to field trip, any of the, I mean, teaching the subjects. And you can give this problem also, you can give the simulated problems, and then you can ask them, so that they will become habituated in following this scientific method. And not only in the simulated form, also whenever you teach anything, whenever you give any information, so you can ask them to, I mean, to find out the reason. Some of the things you can give, this is the condition, so can you find out the reason for this, or can you, I mean, get the information from somewhere else, like peer groups, from home, or anywhere else. So inquiry based method of teaching should be adopted, so that through the inquiry based method of teaching also, you have to follow the scientific method. So this type of teaching can be done in the classroom, and you can give the students a good scope and opportunity for developing this type of scientific method, so that they will become a person with the scientific temperament.
Right. So that was Dr. Brajayanti with us, telling us what is scientific temper and how we can use scientific temper to resolve our conflicts. Ma'am told us in detail how through simulation and also from early childhood, while using inquiry method in the classroom, we can make scientific temper a part of the behavior of our learners. That was really beneficial for our viewers. Let's move on to our next expert, and मेरा अगला सवाल रहेगा प्रोफेसर दया पंत मैम के लिए. Ma'am, have you ever tried to resolve a conflict?
Well, thank you, Anu. See, very nicely, Professor Devi explained how scientific temper can be applied to resolving conflicts. Now, conflicts are not that simple to resolve. The procedural part was explained very nicely. You know, because the conflicts are grounded, or the root cause, as she was saying, has to be analyzed. The root cause lies in the perceptions, biases, prejudices, and cultural characteristics of the people. Therefore, these are very, uh, they are hidden, they are not so obvious. And sometimes they are not even known to the person. Why one wants certain things, why one's needs are like this. So what is lying underneath the conflict is not known to people themselves. So it requires, resolving conflicts requires, along with the procedural, logical thinking, generating hypothesis, or generating why the conflict is there. It requires communication skills, apart from skills, and as well as certain attitudes. The communication skills are very important ingredients in the whole process. In fact, in the scientific temper as well, a scientist is supposed to be humble. A scientist is supposed to be very genuine. A scientist must have attitudes of integrity, humility, persistence, open-mindedness, and science is grounded in the logic, science, evidence. So these are some of the characteristics of scientific thinking and some of the attitudes that lie or at the core of conflict resolution. So let's start with communication skills. When we try to resolve conflicts, the communication skills are very important. It is more than the verbal part, it is a non-verbal part. Sometimes they say, there is a saying, looks can kill. So person is not wanting to kill, but it's the looks that are killing. How you look at the person, how you uh, mm, how you're viewing the other person, what kind of messages, silent messages you are sending through your face, through your body language. Are you facing the person squarely or not? So those issues are very important. Non-verbal signs, they often uh, lie, or they often reveal what is remains hidden in the open conversation. So it's very important for negotiators or those who are working with conflicts to mind their own body language. I will not go into the details of all the body language uh, issues, but if those of you who get involved in resolving conflicts of your own or others, please see that your attitudes are all right and your intentions are uh, are known to you. For instance, if you are angry within, your looks will be, your face and your body language will reveal that you are angry. For instance, an angry person puts both, has a very angry stance as well. Hands will be on the uh, body, resting on the body, and face will be stern, will be staring at the other person. So your attitude gets revealed. So it's very important. So when you are then when you are when you are in conflict resolution, you should adopt a very polite, a very warm. You should be warm towards the person because you are solving the conflict. You are not fighting the person. One needs to learn to separate the problem from the person. Person and the problem are not same. That's what the scientific thinking tells us, that problem is not same as the uh, people. People have created problem and there is a problem, but people are separate from the problem. So one needs to define the problem very clearly, what the problem is. There the skill of communication lies. Communication should involve warm attitude, respectful attitude. And then in addition to that, if you are not respectful while communicating in a conflict, already there is a conflict, and an attitude of disrespect towards the other person will only escalate the problem. Although we do believe in intensifying conflicts sometime, that is one of the ways to reveal the conflict. But anyway, without going into that, I'm coming to the communication skills. The communication skill part, another very crucial thing is active listening. You need to listen to other person. And when you listen in a conflict, you listen not with a view to wait for. Mostly what happens when two people are warring, fighting, they are in a conflict, one person says, you listen to me. The other person says, okay. But that person is not listening. When you are excited, you are not listening to the other person. You are waiting for your turn to reply. We have seen often in debates, political debates on the TV. I have seen in my own experience with warring teachers, warring people, when in marital conflicts and in school situations. Everywhere the person is waiting for their turn to reply. First word and the other person stops listening. So it is, and the respect and everything jumps out of the communication arena. So it's crucial. These communication skills, active listening skills, are highly crucial to the process of conflict resolution. If you are not respectful, if you are not actively listening to the other person, and mind you, active listening is a very difficult thing. Those of you who are listening, if you are listening right now, you know how much energy it drains. It drains energy. You will feel tired after this session if you are really listening. That is why in between you switch off because you are tired unless you are motivated enough. So then another important communication skill, uh, it's a skill. Scientific thinking, scientific temper, scientific method is a skill. It's not just uh, stating a hypothesis. And Professor Devi very nicely brought out the procedure. But then all those things, the hypothesis, logical thinking, that's a skill that you can develop. So what is the other skills, other components of the skill apart from active listening is, you know, remembering every detail, the keywords, and then once you have heard, why do we need to listen? We need to listen because person in a conflict doesn't realize what they are saying many a times. You will find that funny that I'm saying it and I don't realize what am I saying it because my latent anger, latent uh, needs, latent perceptions, biases, they come out. And then they come out in anger. First, anger has to subside. But after a burst of speaking, and the other person has listened, those key ideas the person has to paraphrase to the other person using the same words so that I can, as a person who is in problem, I can listen to what am I saying. Is this what I mean? So the person who's resolving conflict must learn to paraphrase back to the person. It's like I was recently listening to a young teacher who was working with school children, and she was a very helpful person. She would go out of the way to help children. She said, I do all that you are telling me to do with children, but my senior colleagues bully me. They say that why should you do this? Why should you go out of the way to help children? And I knew she must have been bullied badly because her face, everything was revealing that she is in a terrible state. So this is what conflict does to you. Why you don't know what you're saying, why you don't know what's happening to you is because you are disturbed. People in conflict are highly disturbed. So communication, when I paraphrased back to her, she first she broke down and then she calm. We gave her opportunity to calm down, and then I went on to question her. So she was feeling bullied. So we did some work with her. So first we have to make her understand that how her actions could irritate a senior colleague. So what is it she doing? She's doing right thing, absolutely right thing, helping children. But along with that, there must have been something else which is happening, which is not uh, helping the senior colleagues. So, like Professor Devi was saying, there are hidden issues, the root cause of the conflict. Root cause of the conflict is not so easily visible to the other person. So, when we paraphrase to the other person, when we use our communication skills, then we bring it out. uh, And then when all that is revealed, the stress goes down. When the stress goes down, many times the person himself or herself is able to see clearly how the conflict came to be. So then that is the stage when we generate a lot of action ideas. So this is precisely what Professor Devi was saying, that you have to generate alternatives. We generate alternative ways of resolving the problem. So we normally check it with the person. So so these are some of, very briefly, some of the skills. And when you are in the process of resolving conflicts by yourself, or you are resolving somebody else's conflicts, you have to see that Sometimes a person may say something that you find funny. Somebody may say,
Sure, ma'am. That was Dr. Daya, Professor Daya Pant with us, and ma'am very beautifully explained how conflict resolution is not as easy as we all think, how it involves active listening, communication skill and body language. These three things majorly pointed out by ma'am constitute an important part of what we can say conflict resolution. Moving on, let's go to Dr. Naman Dubey. Dr. Naman sir, I wish to ask you, what role do cognitive biases play in escalating conflicts among students?
First of all, good afternoon to everyone. And I'm delighted to be the part of this discussion. And as rightly pointed out by Professor Pant, that there are many factors, and cognitive bias is one such factor which play a great role in interpretation and leading to a situation where conflict arises. So the real issue is how students interpret those situations and react to them. And very often those interpretations are not real, are not based out of reality, but are deeply ingrained on mental shortcuts, which generally psychologists refer to as cognitive biasness. These cognitive biases are universal. Adults have them, children have them, even late adults have them. So even all of us are having some of the other cognitive biases, and they operate silently beneath the surface, shaping the way we see or we talk or we make decisions. So these biases are part of our personality. And when we look at the conflict, especially in school, what stands out immediately is that most of these confrontations do not start with deliberate harm, that they are not intending to deliberately harm. They start with a misunderstanding, a misreading of the interpretation. A student might fail to respond. Suppose I'm meeting to a person and I forgot or missed to respond to someone or greet someone, and then the student will instantly think or may interpret it as rudeness or disrespect. But in reality, the first and maybe that simply the person would have been distracted or lost. But the mind rarely waits to verify, it rushes to a conclusion, and that conclusion is often based on biasness, and that is what we call as attribution bias, the tendency to assume that someone's behavior is intentional rather than accidental. So these biases are very powerful. A neutral action suddenly appears hostile, and emotional reactions that follows create a conflict and may result in avoiding to that person or even have a heated argument. So these biases are somehow ingrained in our personality, and they are actually making at that point when we are in conflict situation. So if we talk about, this is one of the biasness, we talked about attribution bias. Other biasness is, so that plays a significant role in conflict, is confirmation bias. Students hold on to certain beliefs about their peers. Suppose he don't like me or she always try to show off. That group is against us. So these kind of beliefs are basically based on there have been certain instances, and now they have started conforming it and they have clubbed it into that way. So, and this even harmless behavior becomes proof of negativity. If a student already believes in a classmate dislike them, then even a simple act of not sharing notes or interpreting may be malicious. Then I knew it, he will not give me, or I know that he will not help me. Makes conflict almost inevitable. And because the student is not responding to the event, they are responding to the narrative their mind has already created. And this leads to a conflict situation. Our emotional biases also play a significant role. Adolescents have very active emotional system, and when they are in emotion, they run high. The interpretation becomes more extreme. A casual comment during group work can feel like an insult. A suggestion can feel like a more of a personal attack. In psychology, we call this hot cognition. The thinking is deeply colored by emotion. So we are not rational at that time. The decision making is not being rational, but are governed by the emotions or the heightened emotions which we are feeling at that moment because of the biasness and the interpretation. So a student who is already stressed by an exam or a personal issue is more likely to misread like a peer tone or behavior. Suddenly, what was simply a difference of opinion turns out to be a confrontation. So that's how what happens, that small events take on different leads based on the cognitive biasness. Stereotyping and group-based biasness also shape conflicts in school. Students often form strong identities around their friends, house teams, sections. A small misunderstanding involving one student becomes the responsibility of the entire group. Rumors spread quickly, assumptions become facts, and soon an issue originally belonged to two people or a conflict evolving 20 group of students. So group biasness actually magnifies the conflict far beyond the actual cause. So the conflict which has been arises between two people because of the hate and because of the conformity, it becomes a classroom issue. So let's take another example. In examination setting, biasness even becomes stronger because students are under high stress. The brain has less capacity of rational thinking. Suppose a student is just lunching by or just moving a slight way, and because of the anxiety, he may be judged as an suppose he would be copying. A classmate who finishes early may be viewed as overconfident or showing off. These pressures of the environment amplify these assumptions, and these assumptions quickly turn into acquisitions. And this conflict actually makes students feel stressed over narrow thinking and make us interpret more negatively. So this actually and as a psychologist and as an educator, our role is just to resolve conflict away how they happen. So we just do not need to resolve the conflict. We also need to identify how this situation has arisen. We also need to do the post-mortem of the situation. So what is how it was interpreted, what are the biases involved, and that also needs to be communicated. Our role is to build awareness of these biases so student learn to pause to question their own assumption, that whatever biasness they are coming from or whatever assumptions they are having, so they should start questioning their own biasness. Is it so? Suppose the person has not greeted me. Is it that he was busy or distracted, or he really ignored me? So we need to start asking those kind of questions. When a student practice saying maybe they didn't mean it, or maybe I don't have all the information, then they start questioning those biasness, and then this can also actually help in interpreting the situation, making it more something shift. That mental pause, the moment of reflection, is the foundation of scientific temper. So this moment of pause when they start thinking leads to a foundation of scientific temper, I would say, and it encourages students to check fact, seek evidences, and interpret behavior with openness rather than a fear of judgment. So instead of being biased towards something, they will be start questioning. Have you not noticed me? तुमने देखा नहीं क्या मुझे? It could be done that way. And then once students start questioning their own assumptions, the real scientific temperament actually evolves. And in a long run, this awareness does not just create a peaceful classroom atmosphere, it also shapes the empathetic and rational young mind who always contribute to the building more harmonious society. So this actually helps us in overcoming our own biasness, and also interpreting the situation rightly, not because of our biasness, but what actually happened in the situation. So I would interpret it more from a cognitive biasness lens. I
Right.
hope I have taken my time.
Right, right. Thank you so much. That was Dr. Naman Dubey with us, telling us all about the cognitive biases. Sir mentioned multiple biases that students or any individual face. For example, conflict bias, cognitive bias, group bias in multiple scenarios. Do go back to our YouTube channel and you can catch all these terms with examples on the recording, which will be shared soon on the YouTube channel. Let's moving on to Miss Babita. Ma'am, since you are dealing with the children every day, so I would like to ask you, list any 3 common conflict situations that students may face in school.
There are many, thank you for your question, Anu ma'am. There are many conflicts, but majorly if we have to classify it in 3 major conflicts, the very first conflict which can be taken as they are very argumentative, or they are misunderstanding towards their classmates. It keeps happening on and off. This has increased a lot. Another second can be a sibling conflict at home. The children who are having younger sibling or the elder sibling, they start having a conflict with their own sibling as well. That's also coming up in a big way. Another third one, we can take it as they have started with the disagreement with the parents as well. Lot of disagreement related to their routine, related to their screen time, or their study expectations also, you can say. But all these are a very day to day conflict which is happening, which can easily be resolved by very careful observation and by handling it in a better way. Like if suppose we want to see register the argumentative behavior of the students or the children amongst the classmate or their neighbors or their children whom with they fight, the very first thing is we need to be very calm and we need to avoid overreacting instantly, right? How can we be very much calm while we are talking to them? That is the key thing, is we need to be more on the we need to be more on the encouraging side, that we need to stop assuming the things, we need to listen. Like Daya ma'am already said, the active listening, we need to first listen to what, where it started, why it has started, and what actually the child want to say. Then they will be they feel I'm more heard, and then they will be, every time when they react, it will be they will think before reacting, and then they will react to such situations. In fact, rather than, you will find out when you are taking a active listening strategy, the students are more into their own self listening mode also, that what we are trying to suggest or what their friends are trying to suggest. Because at this stage they watch us more rather than listening to us, how we behave to that particular situation. They are more into it. So we need to be first very calm. Another thing is, we need to, whenever we are suggesting also, like we are suggesting or when we are talking to them also, we should be again reiterating the same thing, or we should be telling that I feel this is something to be done, or I think we can do it like this. Rather than just coming to a conclusion, we should first suggest this things to them, and then we should move forward. So again, this will be helping. And identify the real issue instead of focusing on the blame, right? The problem is not the child, the problem is something else. So we should be focusing on the main cause, not on the child, and not start counting the previous mistakes what the child has done, or whatever the conflict was there earlier. We should only and only focus at that time what is the main cause over there. And we should, at the end, we should give a fair solution also, right? Because they are watching us, they see that, they understand what, how we will be dealing. And next time you will find that when there is a conflict between another two set of friends, they will be the one, they will come up again, and you will find that they are creating the solution, they are trying to solve the conflict also. So we just not have to solve the conflict, we have to create a community in which the child himself becomes very independent, and they start solving the conflict for the other students as well. Hand holding is very important. Another point which I shared was for the sibling conflict at home, or sibling conflict can be at any place, it's not that it happens only at home. Even if two siblings are traveling together for the school, so they might have a very small fight, they can be doing that, I will sit on this side of the window, or I will be sitting on this side of the window, or this is mine, why you have taken this. So it starts from that, and slowly, gradually, if it is not being registered carefully, it turns into a bigger conflict. So set very simple rules, turn wise. At home you can set a very simple rule, turn wise. Okay, today it's her turn, or next day it's the other child's turn. This is how they will be. Another thing is agreeing on a plan to avoid repeating the same problem. How will you avoid? You have to create a certain plan, and then you have to follow, and the children will also follow, right? At times you can ask their suggestions also. They, when the children are in the adolescent age, they like to be heard, they feel that they should be in the decision making system. So what we need to do is, at times we need to involve them for the decision making also, for the suggestions also. They will feel that I am more heard, and that is again a better scientific way to deal a particular human being. Also, you will find that these days there is a lot of disagreement with the issues with the parents. Parents are finding it a big challenge to reduce the screen time or to limit to a study time, like this is the routine you need to follow, and other things also, even for the eating routine also, even for the for their basic healthy routine, for the physical fitness also, there are certain routine to be followed by a growing in the growing years. And you will find that the children are having a lot of disagreement with it. They start conflicting, they start doing argument with the parents. So the very first thing should be done here is respectfully express the feeling without arguing. Understand what they are trying to say. As a parent, first you need to listen. आपको वो क्या बताना चाह रहे हैं, आप पूरी तरीके से सुनो before you come to a conclusion or before you start assessing the child or judging the child on that particular thing. First you need to listen. Then second thing is you need to explain it logically. You have to give a logic answer. You cannot be telling नहीं मैं आपकी मम्मी हो या मैं आपके पेरेंट्स, हम आपके पेरेंट्स हैं तो you have to listen to us. It doesn't work this way. You have to give them a logical answer when you are discussing, or when you are listening to them, when you are talking to them. It has to be a logical representation. Understanding their perspective is equally important. At the same time, putting your points in a firm manner is also very important. So you need to be more firm rather than be more showing your argumentative behavior or showing your supremacy. Rather than you need to be firm on particular thing, they will be more better understanding to you. Also show a responsibility towards their decision making. Whatever, if they have decided certain things, every time whatever plans a parent has made, a child will not follow, because the way you have logical answers, they will also be having certain logical answers, right? So you need to try and understand what the child is trying to make you understand, or what the child's point is. So at times you have to take their suggestions also. While planning the timetable logically, you have to take their feedback, you have to include, because at the end of the day child has to be implementing those things, right? So it is very important. So rather than the, I will again come back to my main point. Rather than coming to a conclusion, you should be observing why the child has done. Before any assumption, observe it, then talk it out, and then come to a conclusion. And also promote the questioning way of a child. That's more scientific, because every child is growing in his or her growing up years, they have a lot of queries, right? So we can always be more into a encouraging manner, that okay, whatever they are asking, we need to listen that also. At times parent feel that अच्छा ये आप तो हमेशा ऐसे पूछते रहते हो, आपका तो हमेशा ये हमेशा का है. We should stop doing that, and we should encourage a child to ask you more and more questions. In that way you will have a better person who will be listening to you. Another thing is, help them separate out the facts and the emotion. As sir already, Naman sir told that the facts are something different and the emotions are something different. So you need to actually go into the facts rather than coming with the emotions. Emotions can tell you in a different direction, but when you go on the facts, that this is the actual fact, how it has happened, this time, this particular time the child has done this, this is a factual theory, right? And if a child is telling you that I will be doing, and if a child has already done, so there is a difference. One is a fact, one is related to emotion. Mother is going into the emotion that मैं कर लूँगा. So you need to go more on the fact, and then you need to take a decision, and then you need to talk to the child. Build a logical thinking in each and every child. How will you build logical thinking? Divide the responsibilities. Give them certain tasks. Rather than you planning every time, you need to assign a task to them. You have to allow to the child to find out the solutions on their own manner. No matter first time when you assign, they will not be coming up with the solution, but you need to allow them. That's how you will be developing a logical thinking in them. You have to set certain rules and boundaries. which you will also follow and the child will also follow. And in case there is something, even after doing all these steps, you feel that there is something which is not happening, so there should be no compromise. Certain rules are set which a child has to follow and you also need to follow. So you need to understand which at what time what is more important, and improve the communication skills. There are different ways to communicate. You can be persuasive, you can be argumentative, but you need to be, every time you talk to a child or every time you talk to a person, you need to be more and more assertive. Assertive way of communication will help in developing a better relations, and the child will also develop a logical thinking when you are doing a assertive communication. The scientific temperament will be developed, a clear encouragement will be developed. They will also be respectful during the communication rather than blaming or shouting. So assertive communication is something which we all need to follow. Also, reduce the impulsiveness. How will you reduce the impulsiveness? Like when a person is coming to you in a very much agitated manner or very much hyper, you think, you pause, show calmness, respond to it, not overreact to it. That will reduce the impulsiveness of that particular matter, right? Also encourage more and more fairnessness, because fairness is required. Even though they are small, they understand that whether we are fair or we are not fair, so that is also leads to a particular balance which is very important, and it leads to a peaceful decision. When you are fair, it will lead to a peaceful decision. So these are few scientific temperaments and scientific ways where by which we can always do a conflict resolution for the school students.
Right. Thank you so much. That was Ms. Babita telling us all the practical aspects of conflict resolution, not only sibling conflict but parental conflicts also, and I was quite able to relate to that. And I was also visualizing how in our households we sometimes forget that even our children do have their own brains, their own logic. So let these little men and women also have their share of understanding or logical thinking. Moving on, my next question is to Professor Daya ma'am. What were your plans and expectations when you tried to resolve conflict, ma'am? We will soon be joined by Professor Daya.
Yeah. Thank you, Anuji. Like my young colleague was just now talking about, and Anu could relate to that also as a young parent, that children have problems, listening to parents, and there are conflicts. Now, here, and a very important thing is missing, that uh, the scientific attitude, the questioning skill of the parent, which is a very important skill on part of uh, mm, all conflict resolution experts. If you want to resolve a conflict, what you need to do is question, question, and question. What, why, and the purpose of these questions is to reveal what are the needs, what are the needs of the person, what does the person want, why the person is creating that trouble, or why, or sometimes the only conflict between parent and the child is not achieving. So the parent needs to ask question, what happened? Full stop sometimes. But my parents go on to lecture. The idea of questioning, which my colleague was talking about, Babita was talking about, was same perhaps, that questioning as a scientific skill, questioning in negotiation situations, is to bring about the prejudice, bias, perception, or unique way of thinking of the person or the needs of the person, what the person wants, goals of the person. The child, what does the child want when they are not studying? What are they thinking? Why they are shouting when parents tell them to do something? Or why they are disobeying the parent? It's not the child doesn't want love of the parent, so they are disobeying. They want something, obviously. So how will this be known? By questioning. And questioning is not question and then tell them. Questioning is to ask a question and then wait respectfully, listening carefully to the person. So I often say in conflict situations, you should be ready to ask 1000 questions at each assertion and each statement of the other party. So you will not listen to me. Why? And then pause. This is this is what is required in such situation. When we are pausing, it doesn't mean we are waiting again for our turn. So a dialoguing with the child. A dialoguing with the child involves respectful listening, questioning, and clarifying. Question, clarifying. This is a scientific skill. Questioning, and if the question doesn't reveal to me the logic or the problem of the situation, I have to further question, listen carefully, observe carefully, and see where my questions lead, whether my questions lead me to precisely define the problem or not. Whether they are able to, once the problem has been decided, once the problem has been identified, then you can jointly in a dialoguing situation generate solutions. The child will say, I need to go to film, late night film. The parent says no. The child says, why not? So the parent sometimes say, because it's not safe. So child says, I'll take care of safety. So there the parent has no more answers. I will give one more question to the parent. I will say, ask 10 more questions. How have you ensured your safety? So the child will tell you something. Then have another question ready, whether that safety procedure is right or not. So dialoguing involves questioning skill, keeping quiet, listening respectfully. That's one style of conflict resolution, whether among colleagues, whether with a child, whether among parent and child, or whether among two colleagues. Asking questions with a view to understand the conflict, not to tell people, not with a view to advocate your own opinion, not with a view to force your own solutions down the throat of the other person. Ask for solutions. Ask. How will you ensure your safety? How will you study that next time you will get 60% marks? Or what for are you studying? What are your goals? Is 60% enough for that? And or suppose you don't get 60% marks, then what are you planning to do? Asking that in a respectful tone, very, very respectful tone, listening to the answer of the child and further asking questions. This is one way of negotiating. Then there is negotiation. When we are negotiating, when two people are at conflict, there is a difference in their position. So it's not the position. I am a father, so you must listen to me. That is focusing on the position, but we are focusing on the uh, outcome. What is the outcome? Outcome, and also the conflict must be resolved in such a way there is win-win for both. The parents' safety concerns are addressed, and the child's having fun with friends whenever they have time, all of them have time, that should also be satisfied. So any conflict resolution negotiation should be fixed at win-win for both the party, parent, child, both the teachers. One teacher, like I said, wanted to help children. The other teacher was scared of her popularity. So they were warring with each other. So negotiation should be the younger teacher realizes that she doesn't become so popular that she's being talked about everywhere and they start praising her everywhere. The senior teacher should make allowances that younger people are little more closer to the children, so they will be popular, but this is no threat to their seniority. They are still very respectful. So, like that, there should be win-win for both the parties when there are negotiations. The third kind of negotiation is when two parties are not able to come together. They are not ready to even look at each other. So a third party mediation is required. This happens when two groups are quite at war with each other, or two groups of teachers uh, do not see eye to eye and they are creating difficulties at the school level for the principal. So here, mediation by a third, neutral, respectful, well-meaning person is warranted. And this well-meaning person should be um, well-versed in conflict resolution techniques as a logical uh, process by pinpointing the problem, by looking at the problem from both the parties, discussing the problem by both the parties. It could be uh, a group of teachers and students who are not seeing things quite eye to eye and there is a problem. So when the mediator talks to both the groups, he or she can see where the disturbance in thinking is happening, and the groups also are able to openly talk about the problems. The When they are openly talking about the problem, the prejudices and biases, the kind of things my friend Dr. Dubey was uh, mentioning. So where the bias is, who is more angrier, why are they angry? So if somebody is angry, like he was mentioning, if they are angry, if they are aggressive, why they're aggressive, so that they can reveal to the third party. And see, a conflict is not as simple as it appears. It has layers and layers and layers within. There may be a historical experience with the teacher, that student did something very untoward with the teacher, or some caused some loss to the teacher, or caused some insult to the teacher. Similarly, on part of the students also, there may be a history of something untoward with them. So these things are revealed separately to the person who is doing negotiation, and then this person first sort of uh, reduces the temper of both the parties, helps them to come to a common table, and focuses on the common goals.
Right.
In mediation, focuses on the common goals. When he or she highlights that दोनों के interests are served, then both of them come back down from their high pedestal or anger or prejudice, and they are able to see eye to eye for the common interest, common goals, and common reward that they
Right.
are that other person is coming in the way of.
Ji.
So mediation is another very important strategy, and then there are two more strategies. Sometimes
Dr. Daya, we
the
will
two
have to be
parties are
very
what?
quick with these two strategies.
Yeah. Sometimes parties, the conflicting parties are warring with each other. They can't see any common. They don't want to come down from their positions. So in such situations, the smart negotiator has to logically generate solutions by way of focusing on common goals, common benefits, common rewards that will come when two parties join hands with each other, or at least develop workable relations. This is what happens even when two major countries, two major groups, political parties, or two children at home, when they are continuously fighting. So the father smartly removes all rewards. No birthday celebration, no birthday gifts,
Right.
no concessions of going out unless they both of them come together. So all the rewards are linked to their communication with each other. And lastly, friends, lastly is the facilitation. Before any conflict has assumed a very major uh, structure in the family or school, or with in any groups, a will facilitator is a smart leader or a smart scientific logical reasoning person who sees the conflict when they are in the process of developing. And right there, he or she engages in dialogue with the child. When he sees a child is creating problem, marks are reducing, is doing something hanky-panky, so she immediately sits down with the child and listens to the child, questions to the child, shows patience towards the child, and with an unbiased approach listens to the child and brings the child back into the resolving conflict with the person. So facilitators keep conflicts from
Getting
growing
aggravated, yes.
and nipping them in the bud. So these are some of the strategies of conflict resolution, friends. Thank you.
Right. That was Dr. Daya Pant telling us all about conflict resolution strategies, and my takeaway, major takeaway from the entire discussion was: one, question respectfully and then listen carefully. That was one of my takeaways from the entire discussion that ma'am gave. And let's move on to Ms. Babita, and we will be very quick now since we are left with a little less time in the session. Ms. Babita, how does a scientific temper help students resolve conflicts more calmly and logically?
Okay, ma'am. Quickly, I'll just give it in 4 points because I can see the shortage of time. Scientific temperament, basically it encourages the child and the parents to think logically and observe carefully and how to respond calmly of the emotions, like emotionally how to react responsibly. So that's again scientific temperament, all the points which Daya ma'am has shared and previously the speakers have also shared. So it will observe, by observing this it will increase the rational thinking as well. It also builds the essential skills like critical thinking, empathy, communication, the problem solving, and also it allows to handle the disagreement constructively. That is also very important. See, having disagreement is not a big issue, but how a child or a parent is going to handle that disagreement constructively, that is the big challenge, and that is how the scientific temperament will help. Also, the use of these scientific approach, it will also promote to the fairness, the healthier relationship in the school, outside the school, at home, or in public, wherever the child is going. It is going to help and promote fairnessness, and the child at the end will learn that this is how it has to be done at every stage. Whenever there is a conflict, every time we are not going to take out a solution or a correct solution, or in a one yes or one no. At times there is a mid path in when we are coming towards fairnessness. So there is a mid path that a child need to understand. When a family adopt a rational thinking and reflective thinking, the conflict reduces. So that is also very important, as ma'am already told. How do we question it, and how do we reflect it, and how do we implement it? So that will help the child to grow more confident, emotionally balanced individual, which is need of the hour. Thank you, ma'am.
Wow, that was very crisp, I would say, from the part of Ms. Babita. Thank you so much for being short and very, very crisp. We will move on to Dr. Naman. Dr. Naman, what structured practices can institutions adopt to help students learn empathy and perspective taking as skills, not just personal traits?
I would like to focus on one core idea, which is empathy and perspective taking. So these are not the personality traits that some children are born with. These are the abilities, or these are cognitive and behavioral skills that can be systematically taught to students. These can be practiced and strengthened in the institutional environment. And schools, perhaps more than any other spaces, are uniquely positioned to cultivate these skills in a powerful, structured, and transformative way. When we talk about empathy, most people immediately think of kindness or emotional warmth. But in psychology, empathy is something much deeper. It is the ability to understand person's feeling, thoughts, as well as constraints without necessarily agreeing to that perspective. So people, when a person is empathetic, they start taking their perspective. They are able to understand others person's perspective. So this is one of the fundamental skill or behavior skill, I would say, is the core for a conflict resolution. And another most effective practice that institutions can adopt is reflective spaces every day in classroom life. When teachers create more students pause to think, or even I would say a cooling period or timeout kind of setup could be around whenever a conflict situation is there. So a timeout or cooling off period could be there. When a third person is mediating, they can just ask the two parties to take a pause, because when there's a conflict, there is a discussion going on and heated discussion is going on, then the emotions which are taking over the charge and does not allow person to think rationally, and that's why time out or taking a cooling off period becomes very much important, so that rational thinking again comes into the picture. Another powerful practice I would say is guided conflict reflection. Whenever conflict arises, and they will, teacher can facilitate conversation that explores each student's perspective rather than focusing on right or wrong, because we as a human have a tendency to कि मतलब तुमने सही किया तुमने गलत किया. It's not about being right or wrong, it's more about with what perspective the thing was, what was the intention behind the that perspective. So rather than focusing on what is right, the conversation centers around understanding the intention, emotion, and the underlying needs. When a student learns that a classmate harsh response was driven by anxiety rather than hostility, the entire emotional tone of the conflict will shift. And these guided reflections help students realize their behavior in almost and always shaped by context and not by characters. Another, I would say, other technique which could be imbibed in an institutional setting are role plays and social simulations. These are again a very highly effective tools when students act out the experiences of some facing academic pressure or a family conflict or a social exclusion or even an identity challenge. When people are playing these kind of roles, they get into that character and then they identify different viewpoints, and when they reconstruct a situation from multiple angles, through these exercises, children experiences a fluidity of perspective. So now their innate ability to take different perspective, to think from different perspective, actually gets much more heightened. And these are always more than one way to understand others person's situation or perspective. Another more effective technique I would say is writing or a journaling. So it means people, teachers, or even parents can help their students to develop a habit of writing their reflections, or a journal diary entries, which we used to do earlier in 10 years, 20 years back, but now people are not having their diaries. So instead of now getting back to the traditional diary, we can have their journal kind of thing in which we can use notes digitally or whatever, or students to still use pen and copy, so they can maintain a diary kind of setup in which they start writing their own reflections, what has happened, why it has happened. So when this writing or this ability of journaling actually helps them question their own thinking, whether this the act they have done or the kind of judgment they are making is out of intention, or is there something rational behind it. If there's something, what are those rationals, what are the different perspective. And this practice actually helps student or the children to know about their process, their thought process. Are they being very impulsive, are they being too judgmental, and they questions their thought process, and which will ultimately lead to a more reflective and more perspective kind of personality. Means I also want to find and emphasize the role of adults, teacher, and school leaders as the emotional architect of this environment. So when the model of empathy, listening, and these kind of things are imbibed within those institutions, in home, in school, the student or the person, the child sees those kind of behavior, that my voice is being listened, my perspective is being taken. So that person also becomes a kind of absorb those kind of behavior, and then he or she himself started asking those kind of questions कि why is this reaction is there, what is the process, आप ऐसा क्यों बोल रहे हो, what is the thought process behind. So then this conflict actually becomes into a conversation where perspective is being exchanged without being judgmental. So this kind of actually at an school level, at a home level, we need to inculcate more these kind of practices.
Right.
And in the today's world, empathy and perspective taking are not luxuries, but they are necessities. In a world where students are constantly navigating difference in terms of background, in terms of abilities, in terms of experiences. And these skills are essential for academic success, emotional well-being, and as well as for harmony. And also, they are cultivating those reflective, responsible future citizens. So they are the children of today, but they will be future citizens who will be taking larger decisions in the country as well as in their family. So we need to imbibe these kind of social skills into them so that they also become a responsible citizen.
Wonderful. That was Dr. Naman with us, and Sir told us some strategies to learn empathy and build perspective among the young learners who are studying in institutes. And some strategies I would like to recall are time out or cooling off, guided conflict reflection, role plays or social simulation, and lastly but not the least, much talked about these days is journaling. Let's move on to the end of the session, and for that I would like to call Dr. Brajayanti. Ma'am, I would like to ask you for some concluding points or remarks from your side.
Okay. So in today's discussion, we have all the panelists or the speakers who have talked on different aspects of scientific temper and how can we use it in the conflict resolution. So scientific temper is very important. Nowadays we can say scientific temper is Madam Darpan also said scientific temper is skill. Okay. So to cope up with the present situation, and the conflict is very common nowadays. Conflict earlier, in olden days, conflict was very less, but nowadays for everywhere we can say, so even for small trivial matters, there's conflict. Maybe from the speakers, we also come to that conflict. Maybe the among the siblings conflict, maybe the among the students conflict, maybe among the workers, co-workers conflict, maybe with the one inner person in the outside. The conflict may be everywhere, and the type of conflict also from the panelists we come to know that the conflict may be manifested one on the paper. Conflict may be the perceived conflict also, and maybe the a struggle within us within me and within someone also is a conflict. So for conflict resolution, scientific temper is on the whole, scientific temper is logical thinking. Logical thinking comprises of the open-mindedness and the objectivity and scientific method. I mean all these things. So to resolve the conflicts with the help of scientific temperament. So there we have mentioned so many there's strategies, so many ways, and also even though we know the process, okay, how to resolve the conflict with the help of scientific temper. Also, Madam Deapant very rightly pointed out, understanding the conflict also very difficult things. So until and unless we do not understand the conflict, because open conflict may be understand easily, but the conflict, perceived conflict is very difficult to understand. So understanding also should be there, and even after understanding the conflict also, for adopting the process, adopting the strategy, we have to watch for a suitable time, because Madam said that when the anger is too much in the higher side, then any method or any strategy to be adopted for resolving the conflict may not be work. So the right time, we should see the right time, and how can we bring down the anger also is one technique for the resolving the conflict. And in addition to that, our panelist Naman Dubey also said that we have to understand the cognitive, the bias, okay, and we should not do the bias in the when we try to resolve the conflict. We should not do the biasness, and we should be very fair. When the children experience the fairness or the fairness attitude from the teacher, from the friend, or fairness judgment from the authority, then the children themselves also will become fair to other people. So experiential learning also, experiential learning also should be adopted for, I mean, developing scientific temper. And by we should not go by we should not go only by the preach. We should do in action, and then we should adopt those uh, preferable characteristics and the preferable strategy for resolving a conflict, not by giving a lecture, not by telling them, not by instructing them, but teacher themselves should adopt that, and they should uh, make the students, should make the, I mean, the candidates or students, learners feel that we have been fairly judged. And madam, that Babita also said about the how to resolve the sibling conflicts and the uh, students conflict between the learners. For that, teachers and the parents has to play a great role. And when they play the role, they also should uh, think about the experience to the students or to the sibling, because as a parent, as a teacher, I should know what are the things to be uh, experienced to the, because developing, we are talking this today's topic is developing scientific temperament, so that it is not the sensitization, it is not the awareness. So for developing the particular skill or particular attitude to a child or to anyone, I mean, they have to have experience about it, because if they have not experienced, suppose example, if a child is very cared and very loved, very affectionate at home by all members, then when he or she came out in the society, so he will become a person who can love people, who will be very affectionate to the others, who will care about others. So likewise, when we try to develop this scientific temper, the characteristics of scientific temper, suppose uh, believe in the cause and effect is one of the characters of scientific temper. So when I come across a situation, when I come across a situation, then I should think first that what may be the cause and why it is coming out. So, and nothing happens without cause. Okay, then if I do not have this belief, or I do not possess this character, which is one of the scientific temper, then I may not practice it in the societies. When I do not practice, the understanding remain in me only, and it is not manifested. So when I do not manifest, when I do not use it, then that particular character, particular temperament is not developing in me.
Right.
That's why,
Ji.
whatever maybe, so we have to make the children experience, feel, and experience the feel about it. They have to be willing to do that. So to make them willing to practice the scientific temperament, understanding about others, and just now Naman also said about the empathy. Okay.
Okay,
I should
Dr. Brajayanti, we will have to stop here. My apologies for interrupting you. Since we are already short of time, ma'am concluded the session really well, pointing out all the important details shared by our experts. And here in the end of the session, I would like to give my thanks to all the experts. We were joined by Professor Daya Pant, Dr. Brajayanti Devi, Dr. Naman Dubey and Ms. Babita Senav. Many thanks and congratulations for being a part of this session. Thank you. So viewers, we had a topic today, developing a scientific temper for conflict resolution, in which we understood a lot. The frustrations, the anger, the aggression among learners or young adults is just the tip of the iceberg. As elders, as teachers, we must dig deep and understand what is going on underneath to resolve the conflicts. Right. So moving on, let me share with you the upcoming programs in NCERT. So on the screen you can see we just had a session on Paricharcha. After that we are going to have a session on evaluation and dissemination of video resources from 4 to 5 by Dr. Ruchi Dwivedi. From 5 to 5:30 we will be having a Sahyog session on My Body, My Alarm System, the physical side of emotion, and lastly we will have a training from 5:30 on leading student competencies and school transformation in a GHS from Goa. That was all from my side. I, Anu Gupta, taking your leave. Namaskar.